Hey there guys, welcome back to another deck profile with yours truly, Paul Reisman. Today we are going over my very favorite Olivia list to date, my white Olivia list that I piloted in our feature match earlier this week. Without further ado, let's jump right into things.
This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, CCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for product, and FOWlibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists. It's also brought to you by our guest lecturer patrons, Vite Ramen. Class is in session.
Alright, so I'm going to have to explain a lot of the choices that I made in this list because some of you might have some questions as to why certain things are operating the way that they are. There are other times where you might completely disagree with this list as it's formatted. That's totally okay. This is gonna be, since we just recently got the ban list, this is gonna be more or less kind of how I think of Olivia going forward, although some new cards from the new set are gonna make me maybe pivot away from this configuration, but this is what we piloted on the channel and I want to give you some ideas as to why I did what I did. So I'm only playing 2 Dolly. So why am I only playing 2 Dolly? And the reason is because after I get my Dolly, I just want to be drawing into straight up gas, right? I do not, at this point, the way I conceived of this is that Dolly is going to be useful for de-randomizing and is probably not going to leave the board, and so it's very likely, in all likelihood anyway, that I would not need a second Dolly in the rest of the game. That's at least what my experience has taught me with this card. So to try and make some room and to try and see what I could get away with, I'm just playing 2 Dolly that I'll bring out via God's Art. Ideally, that would be on turn 1 or with coin, so that I could essentially just play Fiola to tuck my opponent's cards that are not resonators, which is really helpful against contract lists, such as Berserker, etc. It's also like a decently statted resonator. It's a 5/6, but when it's in grave, it actually gives you access to some additional counters for Olivia if you ever have to judgment, and if you're judgmenting, you are in a rare circumstance. So Fiola feeling really, really strong. I'm also a huge advocate for Percival, Blue Percival in the deck. This allows you to dig deep and find any of your chance, plus any regalia that you might be citing. And spoiler alert for down here, we are playing 4-horn in the sideboard for those graveyard heavy strategies or those Union 7 strategies like Zeus. I'm also playing 2 of, and this is a controversial card to be sure, Space-Time Mage of Mott. So at this point, my opponent has to play one more, has to pay 1 more to play anything on my turn. And then when it comes in from anywhere except from my hand, I get to draw 2 additional cards. Both of those effects are pretty solid in general because drawing additional cards in this list goes a long way. Plus, making my opponent's stuff feel less comfortable on my turn is a really good way of deterring them from interrupting anything that I am trying to do, which is really great. Most of you know that you do play at least 1 or 2 of the Fish of the Demonic World. I love this card. A 2-drop 10/10 that deals additional damage is kind of nutty in a lot of ways. It's also a fish, so it pairs really well with Terra Thunderfish. Terra Thunderfish in this list, I chose this as the win condition mostly because I wanted to get around a lot of the cancels that were being played. I also wanted to threaten something. The problem is this card pretty much just loses to Darkness Moonchild, and so that facilitated a need to play some Lorites. And then Lorites sort of began to skew the deck in a different direction. Felt this card was incredibly necessary. It's a very strong card still, a basic staple in green. And then I played 4 Witch of the Fallen Kingdom. 3 Witch of the Fallen Kingdom, 1 in the sideboard, 3 in the main deck. And I was finding myself getting to 4 or 5 stones pretty regularly, so this became another win condition of the deck in and of itself. So the witch targets that I'm going to have in the sideboard are going to be, of course, Witch of the Fallen Kingdom to grant me the Pumpkin Witch, or 2 Witch with a Pointy Hat. These are sideable into the deck to deal with things like Berserker if I need to, or to just stop me from losing the game overall. So that's the Witch package. I just thought it worked really well in this case. This is where things get really funky. So I'm playing a white Olivia list, so you saw me play a Duet of Light. I was really interested in how this card would work given the situation that we have in the meta. This is a Force of Will Fest bred deck in and of itself, so no Warhorse, no Origins of the Seven Lands, but Duet of Light does exist now. And so there would be times in the game where I was able to, before I call Stone, Duet of Light, bring back Terra Thunderfish, bring back Fish of the Demonic World, bring back Space-Time Mage, and just really benefit from the multiple effects you get here. Not only can you gain life or bring something back, you can then put 4+1/+1 counters on the cards that you have on the field. So suddenly your Dolly is an 8/8 with Barrier, which is kind of nutty. Or you can bring back Percival later on in the game using Keep the Faith, etc. And Percival all of a sudden is a 6/6 for a 1-drop, which is really nice. Your Space-Time Mages are 11s. Fish and Fish are huge. 14/14s, plus they get even bigger when Terra Thunderfish swings in. You can de-randomize and get the +6/+6 flying. This card just seemed to have a lot of it's a card I've been experimenting with, and it seems to just have a lot of really good mid-range sort of feels to it, and so this card went into the list. I really like this. It's worked out really well in my playtesting. I've really enjoyed this card. So you can use this or not use it depending on what you want to do. Keep the Faith was the other card that I was really looking into for Olivia. Keep the Faith, it has this ability to buff things, give them flying and drain, which is really nice, but really what I wanted is the revival effect. So if you notice in this list, there's a lot of 1-drops, like Dolly in and of itself is a 1-drop, so if this thing ends up dying, you can just bring it back and re-trigger its effects. You can bring back a Lorite at instant speed, so it just extends your Lorites, it extends your Percival, so if you need to just find something in the deck, Percival is already engraved because of its banish effect. You can bring back a Black Witch, and maybe later in the game you're triggering its enter effect to get something out from the sideboard. So Keep the Faith to me was one of these cards that just had a lot of value in this list in particular. Next to Pulsing Thunder, which again skews us back into the white, although Olivia's been able to sort of skirt around mana conditions pretty easily. This card has a lot going for it right now. It destroys all resonators and J rulers your opponent controls, plus it can also destroy additions and regalia if you needed to. You're never using the third effect, don't even think about it, but basically it can wipe one side of the board or the other. And this is really just a really solid card right now. We have a lot of additions in the metagame because of Falchion, because of Wolfgang, because of a lot of stuff. Plus it can take care of a giant board of resonators if you need it to as well. This was just really solid. And being able to just cast it from hand allows you to save one of your de-randomizations that you would have used using Thunder Empress's Strike, which is the other staple Olivia card. I wanted to use this card a little bit differently in the sense that most of the time most players use the mode to either get a resonator or to get a chant that's 2 cost and then just automatically play it. However, we have an issue right now in that Child of the Light Moon can just stop you from playing the second card you grab off of this card. So what you have to do is think about, how do I use this card outside of what it's normally been used for? It does deal 800 damage. It is a source of removal. It can bounce all 2-drops or less back to your hand, which for you is relatively decent, and it gets rid of everything minus your Terra Thunderfish to be reused, which is really helpful. It can also draw you 2 cards. So if you're in a situation where you feel ahead and you're just like, I just want more gas in my hand, just draw 2 cards with this. There's a lot of utility in this card that I do not feel a lot of players tap into, and so I wanted to see what I could do with that. given that this is a white list and we did not quite have the stones yet to make this work the way I wanted it to, I started playing Setting the Stage for Providence as my de facto cancel spell. I think that the deck is strong enough that it can put a lot of pressure on board. Plus, I recognize that Child of the Fire Moon was a thing, and so anticipating a lot of that being played in this initial draft or two, I imagined that Setting the Stage for Providence would be a really good cancel for me to have in the deck. Because not only that, it cantrips and it protects my chase, which is really helpful, so I basically win the cancel war every single time, and this card isn't stopped by Fire Moonchild. So this is probably not as necessary as I once thought it was, especially now with the new combo ban with Light Moonchild and Fire Moonchild being combo banned together. So people might float more toward Fire Moonchild, but I'm willing to bet that they're just going to pick Darkness Moonchild to replace one of the other cards that is not being used as a ruler in that situation. So this card can probably just be completely removed for Farrer's spell or something else, but this card did what I needed it to do in the initial testing for this list. And then one of the best Olivia cards ever printed, because it gets around so many things. Surging Lightning. Destroy non-Magic Stone entity chosen at random. So if you lop off that blast part chosen at random, because you used an Olivia effect, a replacement effect, or you used a Dolly replacement effect, this is destroy a non-Magic Stone entity, which means it does not target, which means the only thing that prevents this thing from going off and doing what it wants to do is a cancel or the Eternal keyword. So this card gets around a lot of the metagame right now. I think especially of Eternal and First Moon. There's a lot of stuff that this gets around in the Falchion list specifically that this card makes just a lot of really, really good stuff on. It also destroys on resolution because it doesn't target, so your opponent can do whatever they want to do with their board, but at the end of the day, you get to choose what happens. So this card is absolutely amazing. I think it's one of the main cards that makes Olivia good right now, right next to Dolly and Pulsing Thunder. The Magic Stone list is also a little different. The Magic Stone of Tides is something that, when I was considering how I wanted to run this deck, Moonshades drained Olivia very, very, very fast. They also prevented me from using One-Eyed Dragon, although I did opt to run like just 2 Moonshades at first before I wanted to give Sealed One-Eyed Dragon a try, so I took them out for the moment. But going into the next metagame, they might come out and Moonshades might come back in, who knows. But Magic Stone of Tides was sort of my answer. Most of the deck is base blue, and so this is just there to correct for your Lorites or your Black Witches or any of the colors you need for like Pulsing Thunder. If you don't have all of your white sources figured out, this is a really good way to sort of meet those demands as well. This card does a lot more than I initially thought. I didn't think of Magic Stone of Tides being nearly as good as it was, but if you keep things base blue for the most part, this card goes a long way into helping Olivia achieve what she wants to do. Because this is a more white skewed list, we are playing Water Moon Fragment over the rest of the Magic Stones. The 4C in this deck especially goes a long way. So if you imagine you 4C off this card and you see your Dolly, well, I don't want to have my Dolly in my hand, so I'm going to keep it on the bottom of the deck, or your Space-Time Mage, or your Fish, or other things you want to fetch from the deck later. This is a good way of just tucking them to make sure that you don't draw them by accident. And it gives you a choice as to how that works too. So I really like how this adds to Olivia rather than takes away, in a way that other decks just don't quite do. It's kind of interesting. We don't have the Moon Fragment at this point in time, but we do now, so this will probably be shifted out for that, but we wanted a dark source that would give us access to Witch if we were to happen to get it. Same thing with the Wind Moon Fragment. It's another for Sea Stone, but it also provides the green in case I just need a little bit of extra help getting to my Lorites being castable. In the sideboard, I already talked about the Witch package. 4 Sacred Beast Horn. Horn of the Sacred Beast is so good. In the fact that it can put Zeus back a little bit, it can be searchable off of Percival, it can just reshuffle my own deck if I need it to. helps me go into a longer set of, a longer game basically. This card is just really good. And so I just appreciate it for what it is. Outer Space, this doesn't hurt me at all. So the fact that it can just remove swiftness and flying feels really good. I was trying this over Lightning Cave just because it says enter, draw a card, which Lightning Cave does not do for you, and maintaining your hand advantage in Olivia I feel is very core to the deck. I'm playing 3 Sealed One-Eyed Dragon in case I'm in a situation in which my opponent is going to be searching their deck a lot, and they have floodgates and all of these other things that might prevent me from closing out the game. This card is just really solid in that it just can deal that last 600 or put your opponent in a really uncomfortable position because you killed their Black Witch, etc. This is just a really good way of outing that. Considering that I might put this in the main deck over a few other things, Black Witch to me seems like the biggest threat to this list, but I did not see a lot of it in testing, so it's in the side. And then one final setting the stage for Providence. This is just in case I'm playing against any green deck. Green decks like to play cancels, and I like to play my cards instead of them canceling my cancels. That's pretty much it. So guys, let me know what you think of this White Olivia list. You notice there's a few cards that are not in this list, like Sparklefish, etc. But this was really tailor-made based on the Moon Children that I saw being played across the different tournaments we were seeing. And so let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and give us a like if you like this video. Leave us a comment with what you thought of this list. And until next time, this has been Paul. Peace out.